serendipity seems to follow Ralph Macchio, and it most recently took him to Australia. In October, Coldplay released the song The Karate Kid, and it's exactly what you think it's about, down to the lyrics about Daniel. That, of course, is the name of the lead character played by Macchio in 3 The Karate Kid movies and 6 seasons of Netflix's Cobra Kai. After Macchio heard the tune, he shared it on social media, and that's when Coldplay concocted a plan. Frontman Chris Martin asked Macchio to come to Australia, where they were playing a series of dates, and film the music video. The ruse included bringing the actor on stage to help perform The Karate Kid. It was just one of those whirlwind things, says Macchio, who just returned from Down Under. It's just a beautiful track. It blew my mind that he wrote the song, just from the film, which meant so much to him. We certainly had an impact 41 years ago, at least for a young Chris Martin and Coldplay. It never ceases to amaze me, the emotions and feelings that the original film still carries through the decades. Macchio is about to experience another one of those moments. As the final season of Cobra Kai posts its next 5 episodes, there are still 5 to go. This month, Macchio is set to receive his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and his honor will be fittingly placed near the plaque for his late co-star Pat Morita, aka Mr. Miyagi. That's just perfectly wonderful at this point in my life, Macchio says. The actor, at a youthful 63, is somehow a decade older than Morita was in the original 1984 film. It's only fitting I will be Miyagi adjacent till the end of time, and I couldn't be prouder and more honored to have that kind of placement. I remember him saying having a star on the Walk of Fame was probably the biggest highlight of his career, coming from humble beginnings. So I'll get to channel a little bit of the love that he still sprinkles on this Karate Kid universe. It's also a complete career full-circle moment for Macchio, who remembers visiting the Walk of Fame as a teen in the late 1970s when he moved to Hollywood from his native Long Island, New York, to give acting a shot. It was the land of hopes and dreams, and I remember I would walk on Hollywood Boulevard looking for Gene Kelly's star, Macchio says. I wanted to be Gene Kelly, ever since my youngest memory. I used to watch the old movie musicals with my mom. And so seeing all those names like Clark Gable, which come from a lot of the films and television shows that I grew up with, it never seemed obtainable. Before long, he had a regular role on 8 is Enough. Then came his breakout role in Francis Ford Coppola's 1983 feature, The Outsiders, followed a year later by that life-changing moment in The Karate Kid. That crane kick. Wax on, wax off. Daniel San. All iconic pop culture moments that are forever attached to Macchio. People still remember where they saw The Karate Kid, he says. I'm incredibly grateful and feel privileged to be blessed enough to bring joy to people through a character. He also starred in the first 2 Karate Kid sequels and held a major role in 1992's My Cousin Vinny, the Joe Pesci star that is in endless heavy rotation on basic cable. I always call it the late for dinner movie, he says. If it's on, you're going to be late for dinner because you have another setup that's going to pay off and you have to stick to the next one. But then came the lean years, which Macchio chronicled in his recent memoir, Waxing On, The Karate Kid and Me. Macchio was inspired by the philosophy of one of his idols, Michael Caine, who talked about capitalizing on the difficulties you might face in acting and in life. I've learned to do that, he says. There were some difficult times as far as career goes and where I'd wanted it to be. But those are also the years that I was here for my kids at a very young age. It was perfect, especially with this great resurgence and groundswell act that I'm going through right now. I almost couldn't have written it better because I get to enjoy it and it just keeps giving. I mean, the fans never let it disappear. Indeed, Macchio never stopped working. In the 2000s, he held a recurring role on Ugly Betty and was given several opportunities to play versions of himself, most of which he turned down. But he embraced a few, including on HBO's Entourage. If I could tell you the amount of times it was pitched, I said no 90% of the time, he says. I went through a phase where I would joke that my name was more famous than I was. Entourage was the first time I played myself, and so I was proud because it was a cool industry choice and a pretty darn good episode as well. Then there was the funny or die parody Wax On, F***ck Off, from filmmaker Todd Holland, which toyed with Macchio's nice guy persona by trying to turn him into a Hollywood bad boy. It was the perfect time when people with bad behavior were being rewarded, and I consider myself a good guy, he says. So how could I try to make myself more relevant with what works in Hollywood? But the real groundwork for Cobra Kai came when he and William Zabka guest starred on How I Met Your Mother, in which Neil Patrick Harris's character Barney wanted the hero of the Karate Kid at his party. When Macchio showed up, he was disappointed as he'd considered Johnny Lawrence Zabka the good guy.